All right, once again, as per Mr. Trump's speech last night, but we're going to do policy, not politics here. The question before the House on the economy: can we make America great again? Again. Nobody better. Let's ask Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O'Leary Ventures, Shark Tank investor, and author of The Cold Hard Truth on Business, Money, and Life. So, Kevin, no mystery here. The question, Trump was very tough on Biden's economy. I think rightfully so. That's just my view. But I want to make America prosperous again. I want to make the dollar a strong currency again. I want to stop the spending and borrowing and debt creation and inflation. So I want to ask Kevin O'Leary how to do this. Or I'll ask you, can we do it? Is it too late?
It's never too late for America. That's been proven over and over and over again. And obviously, we have a tug of war going on between spending. We have these bills that were passed over the last 36 months that are putting trillions of dollars still into the economy. And we've got the Fed putting their foot on the brakes. So you're pouring in cash, get inflation, and then you've got the Fed fighting inflation. So that can't sustain itself. And so we've got to stop spending. That's going to be number one. And we've got to deal with this thing before the end of August on the debt ceiling. We've got a bunch of bipartisan policy that has to be worked out. I mean, we're also in a very early election cycle, so I get politics, but you're dead on, Larry. Big policy issues. Number one, energy independence. That will be a political issue in this election. We need more energy towards this transition over time. Number two, got to stop spending. We're just going crazy on spending. We'll never get rid of inflation with this much cash pouring out. And number three, we basically have to provide the rest of the world with good policy, good defensive policy. I think, we've lost a little bit of our luster in terms of going out there and saying, no, you're not going to invade Ukraine. The consequences are brutal. Don't do that. There was a time when any president could have said that, and we didn't do that. And I think a lot of people long for that again in America. And we've got to deal with China. Those guys are running roughshod over us. I mean, I'm not happy with our relationship with those guys. I want to level the playing field. All big election issues.
Which should start now. I mean, people say, well, DeSantis hasn't declared yet, but he has declared. He's out there running. Pompeo, I want them all to talk about this stuff. The other thing is, you made a point here about U.S. and the rest of the world. There was a time, Kevin, I mean, I saw it, really saw it during the Reagan years, and you could add Thatcher to that also. But when the United States cut taxes, went to deregulation, emphasized free enterprise, entrepreneurship, limited spending. When the U.S. did that, and Reagan and Thatcher did that, it spread around the rest of the world. Let's say it caught on, and other countries tried to stop spending or slow it down. They did cut taxes. They tried to. There was a privatization move for a while. Nowadays, I don't know, everybody, all these guys, they're all lefties. I hate to say it, but they're all spending and borrowing. Their currencies are going down together, and their economies are terrible. They're all inflating. I mean, it's weird. You look at these G7 meetings. I don't want to be verbose. I want you to talk about it. But I'm just saying, they're all saying the same lousy things.
Well, we're seeing it manifest itself in the competition of states. You don't have to be left. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be red or blue. If your taxes for the individual are over 50%, you start losing people by the billions of dollars. That's exactly what's happening in New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts. You talked about Florida. 1,200 people a day are moving into Miami, where I am, and there's no housing for them. And why? They want freedom, Larry, from taxes. They're making the average salary in America. They can't make ends meet when they're paying 54, 55, 56, 60% tax. That's crazy. And of course they're going to leave those states, and that's okay. And you talked about the budget in Florida, half that in New York. New York State, and it's tough. These are tough words, but it's a very, very poorly run state, and it wastes a lot of money, and a lot of people are leaving and moving to other places like Texas, like Florida. And they brought it on themselves. I don't care who's in legislature there. They've got to fix the basics there. It doesn't matter what your politics are. The policy is terrible.
So, all right. So the $64,000 question is how to get that. I want to get that into the mainstream thinking. And you know what, Kevin? This may surprise you, but once upon a time, I was a Democrat. In fact, I started as a Democrat. And I might add, John F. Kennedy, I wrote a book about him. He was a Democrat. He was a supply-side tax cutter. Ronald Reagan started out as a Democrat. Donald Trump started out as a Democrat. So I'm just saying salvation is possible. But I'd like these ideas of entrepreneurship you're describing to infect the Democratic Party. And they don't. It seems like a lost cause. It seems hopeless. I don't want it to be hopeless, but it seems hopeless.
This election, I've got a feeling, will be about policy. It will be a remarkable transition because we've got a very, partisan country right now. But I think this election, starting so soon, won't be just politics. It's going to be about the direction of the country, which is the path to prosperity, which is the entrepreneurial way to go, how much regulation, how much taxes, what's the tax policy. All of these things are going to matter a lot, and I'm glad you're bringing it up. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. It matters about the policy that the White House issues and supports. And right now, I'm very concerned as an entrepreneur and an investor that we bring some good policy back to all the states. I want to invest in New York. I can't. I want to invest in California. I can't. That place is not investable. Somebody's got to fix it. It's not my fault. I'm not putting money where it's just going to go to zero from regulation. That's crazy.
Kevin, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Jamie Dimon says the banking crisis is not over. What does Kevin O'Leary say?
He's right. And frankly, we're going to go to a model of super regional banks. The market's doing its thing, Larry. I don't care if you talk about Signature Bank or Silicon Valley Bank or First Republic. First Republic's on life support because nobody wants to put their money there. It's nobody's fault. They've lost confidence in the bank. The stock keeps going down. It's on its way to zero. So what? It doesn't matter. The market's telling you we don't need every little tiny bank. So let the market be the market and determine how it's going to sort itself out. But you go ask taxpayers, do you want to guarantee every idiot bank manager? No, they don't. So let the idiots be purged from the market. The market's really good at that. I don't want to insult bad man. Well, maybe I do. They're idiot managers. They got to go.
You don't want. Nobody wants bailout nation. Okay, what is bailout nation? You might save some banks, but you'll put so much liquidity back into the economy, the inflation rate is going to explode. I mean, it's going to explode. That's one of the bailout nation. I'll give you the last word. Bailout nation. Kevin O'Leary. I'd say they're diametrically opposite.
I want to talk about entrepreneurial nation. That's where we got to take the narrative.
All right.
Entrepreneurial nation.
Next segment. Entrepreneurial nation. I love that. Kevin O'Leary, everybody.